Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Coffee Chat with CastleHill. Today I'm joined by Pete Martin, one of our principal consultants and head of our Archer practice. And we're going to talk a little bit about data integration with Archer today, and specifically about the Estrelica Core, which is a library that we've developed to simplify and ease integration with Archer. But we're going to talk about data integration in general first with the Archer platform, get some of Pete's experience and expertise, and go from there. So, Pete, let's just jump right into it. So the first comment or question I'll ask you is around what are the different kinds of data integration techniques that you can use with Archer?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's some basic ones that your most system admins and people familiar with configuration will know about. So you have simple ways of exporting data, data imports, right? Those front end UI options. You have the more administrative features, something like bulk jobs, which can create, update, delete content. You have data feeds, which is obviously more of a administrative feature. And then there are, of course, the Archer APIs, as well as that new data gateway functionality. So those are the primary ones. Data gateway being more of a way of just representing data, not actually, of course, bringing that content into the platform.
Yeah, a lot more complicated to go there sometimes.
A little bit,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Okay. So when do you use these different, out of the box capabilities, and what are the challenges? What are the pros and cons for each of those types of things?
Sure. So, I mean, a big use case would be just trying to have more complex record creation processes or record linkage processes. If you have items that are 2, 3 steps away from a navigation perspective, this might be a process to easily, any of those could be ways of trying to facilitate building connections that are more implied versus directly made within the system. Or you can have consolidated things like, hey, and something like they might use like even like a campaign for, hey, make a record when we have a suite of records that meet a certain criteria, and then make that record link to all those other ones, right? um, or implied ones. Hey, I want to have everybody that's tied to this issue. I want to make sure that they're granted access to the related record. If maybe there's reasons you can't use like inherited permissions, obviously that's an easy answer. But there's a couple different not a couple, there's really a lot of different scenarios where you might have the need to build any of these things. But you know basically creating updating data, and deleting it, any one of those things could be a key need.
Yep. And people often talk about a concept of doing a whole train of like Archer to Archer data feeds or doing other types of things like that, and that's can be pretty challenging sometimes, right? The operational overhead of those, the performance overhead of those, it can be
Exactly.
interesting
Yeah.
if possible at all in some cases.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen some clients with 200-300 plus data feeds, which is really obviously a kind of hard on the job engine, right? And so you want to try to avoid something like that, and it's a maintenance nightmare because they do fail. And trying to you're spending time all of a sudden monitoring these things that should be helping you out and troubleshooting those, where ideally you want to have something that's a bit more concise and a bit more self-maintaining than a
Yeah.
large conglomeration of feeds that might support more complicated data movement.
As much fun as it is trying to manually check all 100 of those feeds and make sure they ran properly and fun things like
Yep,
that.
yep, yeah, exactly. And
When the
it's
users
also, I mean,
complain.
it can be some of them can be a little bit more complicated to bring data in and out of the platform too, right? Those those integration pieces, and trying to keep those. You might have different ways that you integrate with external data sources, and that can be a lot to try to track too, especially if your administrative team is rotating, or there's some rollover there.
Yep. All right. So we know the big picture, but let's talk more about the API and how we do it relative to that. Maybe set us up with a good example and how we resolve it.
Sure. Yeah, we have multiple things that we've done and used, both Archer APIs and sort of extended sort of custom APIs to do. So a big one would be um, data utility, right? Like we want to go and extract content from multiple applications, multiple solutions or programs in the platform. Sure, you can use the data publication, but I think anybody that's used that will realize there's some shortcomings with that process as well. And so using APIs to get that content can be a bit more efficient. You can pick and choose what fields you bring over. Um, and it's just potentially a quicker way of getting that data instead of having to push that content out to your database every night. And
Yep.
it's a little bit, you can pick and choose what data, only updated records, et cetera, instead of just, pushing every record from that application or those set of applications out to your database.
Yep.
So that's a big one. And even something as simple as like user access and using the Estrelica to facilitate implementing changes to user access, right? If you have a request form or even something as simple as like a drop down and a contact record that just has a list of groups. And, as you make changes to this, record permission field or user group list, you could use Estrelica to facilitate changes to the record assignments there, to the group assignments that way as well.
Yep. And that's something which is very difficult to do in any other way, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, certainly there's nothing inherent within data feeds, et cetera, that can do that, unless you, I believe, could use maybe the JavaScript transporter to facilitate some of that. But
Yep.
that just comes again with its own support headaches.
Yep. Cool. Yeah, so can you delve into it any more about how what this application does and how the Estrelica Core interacts with it and what it does?
Yeah, I mean, what we've done is we've just built like sort of a wrapper for Archer APIs and other extended custom APIs that we built out to make it easier to leveraging APIs to get data into the platform, modify it, or get data out of the platform, right? Even such thing as, if you want to get more meta content or metadata information about your data feeds, et cetera, it can even do conversion for some database values, right? If the value for a values list field is 5, maybe it converts that to values list. So if you're getting information about your fields, it automatically converts a lot of that too. You don't have to go through the headache of customizing that and figuring it out if you don't know it already.
Yep. Awesome. Yep. So the a use case like you were talking about with the access, the external application would have the smarts to go and use the Estrelica Core, dip into Archer, get the value you're looking for, manipulate the value into a group record basically, or something along that,
Yep,
and then go ahead and
exactly.
push it back into Archer, all in a very fast, efficient manner overall.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a bunch of, it just gives you like a skeleton key, right? A master key
Mm.
to a big chunk of the Archer database.
Yep.
And allow you to, more easily facilitate whatever sort of integration that you're looking to implement.
Yep. But yeah, and you're doing it through the API, so you're doing it in an architecturally safe way, and all
Exactly.
those fun
Yep. Yep.
things. Yep.
And again, too, what that offers, while Archer has their own APIs, there certainly can be limited, especially as you're trying to get to more of the that backend information. You can use the content API to get a lot of the base information, but it will provide all of the information, for example, for that application, where you can skinny it down if there's a bunch of unused fields, et cetera. You can use this to at least limit which fields you bring into scope. And then again, it just gives you more access or easier access to get to that metadata, meta content information you want to get about notifications or applications, your data feeds, et cetera. Any of those sort of administrative elements of the platform. It's just a real quick way to try to get to all of those items.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. The yeah, so just so folks know who are listening along, so the Estrelica Core is actually something which is available from CastleHill. It's something which is downloadable. It's there's a 90-day trial or a trial period that you can use the Estrelica Core for, and we also provide an example of the application code that Pete was just mentioning, as just as one of those examples, a situation where we would take a user and insert them into a group and some of those pieces, if I have the example right, Pete.
Yep.
the
Yep.
So that's all available right on the website. You can just come and grab that, download it. Overall, it's on software.castlehillrisk.com is the website, and really looking forward to folks using the tool and providing feedback. We're going to be continuing to iterate as we go through it, but it's something which we've used and it's tried and true within some of those pieces. So it's going to be a great opportunity. Pete, what kind of a customer do you think should really think about this though? When we look at it, who's the right audience, I guess is the right word, right, for this type of capability.
I think anybody that has even a moderately complex support setup for their platform, right? Anybody that has external integrations or the need, if you're having multiple data feeds, push pull data across the platform or create content. Anybody that has dependencies on content from other external systems, any of those, really anything. So it's, unless you're a mom and pop shop Archer user, I think it's beneficial to anybody because it just really helps more easily facilitate and um, make it a little easier to have a consistent implementation of these different non sort of typical administrative functionality.
Yep. So need integration, integrations with other types of platforms that maybe certainly there's no
Exactly. Yep.
non-standard item. Situations where maybe you have complex logic, just recapping where you said, right? Situations where
Yep.
maybe you have complex logic between items, places where you may want to manipulate multiple records at the same time. That could be, very challenging from a support perspective. Um, I think we talked earlier about sort of those convoy situations where, we're reacting to things from one feed to another, or other pieces like that. This is one of those areas. A
Yep.
lot of those different types of things. So it's quite the utility belt overall
Exactly.
for
Yeah, I
this.
mean it's like I said, it's a big set of keys, and as long as you have somebody that has some C# and .NET experience, that can use them, that can drive that car, it's
Yep.
kind of unlimited where you can take it.
Yep. That's a great point, because this isn't complex coding, right? It's not, you don't need to be a wizard coder to do this. It's actually where the core is actually helping, because the core provides, like you said, the skeleton key. You just need to know how to use
Yep.
the keys. You don't need how to make the car.
Yeah,
our,
exactly. Yeah, and
our,
that's
our
that's big for
analogies
a
get a
lot of
little far apart.
people. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that probably don't support people with a true programming background to support Archer, right? That's not necessarily a skill set a lot of those administrators have. But you know, hopefully this is one that might be a bit more common on those support teams.
Yep. Awesome. Okay. Anything else you want to raise about that? No, anything else you want to raise about the data utility? Any other pieces?
I mean, just in general, I mean, it's a great way of just sort of centralizing a landing point for your data integration, right? Instead of having all these different maybe FTP sites that you might be unrelated or different file drop processes. This is one way to help facilitate at least a integration point for all of those. Um, it's just helps make it a bit more consistent to on how you implement these different integrations, whether it's across the platform or within the platform or with other external data sources. And just reiterating too that it's kind of takes the any sort of limitations on that basic Archer administrative functionality that's there right now, whether it's limited by the Archer APIs, data feeds, what have you. It kind of takes off those restrictions and really opens the door to like you said, safely supporting your platform with a bit more robust functionality.
Yep. We should have called it the skeleton key, but that probably would have confused people.
Yeah.
But
I just thought of
so
that.
yeah,
Sorry. Yeah.
no, it was good. So again, just so folks, just to remind folks, this is something which is available at software.castlehillrisk.com. It's also off of our main website. You can see a link to it from there. And it's a trial license, so there's no harm, no foul. Download it or be able to use this. It's something which we think people will find really, really useful, and we're hoping to get it out into the Archer community, so that folks can use it and really drive down that maintenance cost for this type of an integration. Thanks, Pete, for joining, and thanks for the explanation. And have a great day,
Sure. My
everyone.
pleasure.